Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good day. My name is Neil McKenzie, Senior Vice President of Marketing here at Universal. You're in the Learning Center. We've had a number of events so far. We'll end up having 11 in total, and we do record all of them. So they cover a number of topics, different speakers, different things that can hopefully help your business and allow you to network and meet some new friends and faces. So if it is your first time to Universal, welcome. There's a number of things to see here at the showroom. It's a large showroom. It's about 115,000 square feet of showroom space. And we have a new outdoor collection on floor 3, 2 new indoor collections on floor 2. And then the first floor, which you're on here, features our special order upholstery offering. We're now getting into COM. There's also the Designer's Lounge, which has some fun activations happening. There's a little cocktail bar in there, and then there's also a beauty bar, so if you need a hair touch-up, you can have that done. And there are also, we have a local artisan from Greensboro selling pottery, so if you want to take some things home or have her ship them to you, she can do that as well. So today's also Sunday, the final round of the Masters, so if you don't want to miss any of the Masters, we'll have a lot of Masters things happening a little bit later. That's what I'll be doing. We're so excited to have a great panel. Ericka always brings in a number of great speakers, and I'm sure they're going to entertain and inform. So I'll kick over to you. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Is this on? Yeah. Thanks, Neil. If you guys haven't been here before or been into and around the showroom, please take some time to do that after the panel. They make it so easy to work with designers. It's incredible, and their collections are across all the any project you need anything for, you can find it at Universal. And it's always a pleasure to put together ideas and things that start conversations, and that's really what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how the media has set expectations, has really benefited the practice of interior design, but also some kind of course correcting that we can do as well. And then we'll leave it open at the end for lots of questions. So if you save your questions to the end, I'm sure these guys are going to be open and excited to chat with you. And I think Neil's right. This is going to be a very entertaining panel. We got a really, really exciting setting guests. So I'd like to start with a little context setting in panels just to put us all kind of around the same page. So some stats, media related, and maybe you know these, maybe they'll surprise you like they did me. But how often do you think people check their phones? Just pick it up. Any guesses?
Yeah, it feels like every 30 seconds.
It says every 12 minutes, which to me seems like not so much, but perhaps designers are more, who knows? 90% of people say they check their phone within 10 minutes of waking up. I'm the same. And this one is great. 3 out of 4 people have texted someone within the same room as them.
My children.
Teenagers is 100%, but the rest of us 3 out of 4. Yeah. So raise your hand. Everybody put their hand up if this is you, if you are using social media or the internet. Keep your hands up. Okay, put your hand down if you watch TV. Or that's Netflix, any kind of broadcast, anything like that. Yeah. Okay. Put your hand down if you read emails from brands or designers. Put your hand down. Oh, okay. Put your hand down if you subscribe to design magazines. We don't have any hands left, and there's more. Or read books by designers or industry insiders, or come to panels. None of us are without the influence of some kind of design media. And so what we need to do, raise your hand if you are a designer in this room. Okay. If you're a brand. Okay, great. What we need to do is continue to have this conversation because we want to educate our clients, we want to educate the media, and we want to have fair representation. So there's not a lot of misconceptions about design, like it's inexpensive or anyone can do it. And some of these things are true, but we want to kind of get ahead of this. And so that's what we're going to start with today. I could not possibly do the justice of introducing you, so I'm going to start with the question, the sort of state of the state. So when you introduce yourselves, tell us how you are involved in the media, what that looks like for you and your business, and I will say, this is your chance to make your introduction because there are not enough words for me to read. So I would say do it yourself.
Okay. Hello, I'm Kelli Ellis. What do? I currently have a show on the Design Network called Extravagant Spaces. It's so much fun. I get to be a host and not a designer on this show, so you can watch 20 minutes of me looking completely shocked. It's very fun. The homes are incredible. It's true, right? I'm shocked the entire time. Yeah, you could actually make a drinking game out of it. And how many times I say, oh my, so if you just want to go ahead and do that, that's really fun. I've been on television for over 30 years. Wow. Okay, that's fun. I started on TLC, if you remember a show called Clean Sweep. 2 rooms, 2 days, $2,000. So talk about setting expectations. Impossible. And then moved on to HGTV after that. Many shows on there, Celebrity Holiday Homes and all those fun things. And currently, like I said, on the Design Network, but I am living in Barcelona, working for a technology firm that helps antique dealers sell online. So I'm having a good time, sort of doing a little bit of the design work and doing some of the technology to help some of our friends in the antique world.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Porter. I'm the editor-in-chief of Design News Now. We're a trade publication focused on the luxury residential market. My background's predominantly in film and television, and I was a production designer, and then I also worked with this one. This is my first job in design with a company she founded called Design Camp, and we were doing educational seminars like this all over the country, and then we took it online, and we were basically a prototype for what Masterclass is now, but just for the design community. We sold that to a tech company, and then I ran that tech company for a little while, and now I'm the editor of this publication. So here we are.
And you have great content. I've just been consuming all of her content.
She's a fan. Very sweet.
So hi, I'm Tori Sikkema. I'm an interior architectural and branding photographer based in the Northeast, but I travel all over. Very exciting, feeds my soul. I love what I do. It is not work to me. And being able to meet incredible people that I otherwise, our paths may never have crossed, and to see how we are so aligned as creatives and as kick-ass women in this industry, it's really wonderful. So I feel very grateful. Thank you, Ericka. And so, what do? I help brands tell the visual marketing story. So anything visual, those assets, that's what I create. And why are those visuals so important? Well, that helps you define who you are in the industry and inform your clients what they're going to get. So it's setting expectations, and we want to set them the bar as high as possible. And so showing up professional, hiring a professional interior architectural photographer, if you want to take your brand to the next level and be published, give me a call.
There you go.
So I'm Ericka Saurit. I work with interior designers and brands to help them with a variety of different marketing functions, assets, creation, all of that. But my interest in this is that, clients who come to me have a difficult time, attracting with the right kind of story. And we always start with the idea that you're not just a business, you're a brand. The idea with a brand is it has a really strong point of view. They're really focused on all the messaging they put out to make sure it's clear. People from you to you to you, everybody gets the same story and they understand the brand in the same way. So if we unpack that a little bit and we think about interior design as a brand, we might think that interior design has a bit of a brand problem, right? There's a little bit, like I said, of a miscommunication, and that's okay. But I'd like to kick off maybe with a question from each of you, just not to be too broad, but in your experience, right, how has media shaped your career? You talked a little bit about that, but shaped how you interact with clients. I'll start with Courtney because Courtney had a really great timeline for how media, going back, I'll say 20, 30 years.
20, 30.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? I thought that was so fascinating.
Sure. So when we were conceptualizing ideas for this talk, the way I think about design and media, it's kind of chunked up into 3 or 4 points in time The earliest being when the clients first had any touch point with mainstream design would have been shelter publications, right? That was all the rage. And then we moved into the internet phase and social media. And we're in a new phase now, which I would say is and in between there would have been the HGTV, TLC, that was your 24-hour design news cycle. Then you had social media. Now we're in a space where it's all about user-generated video. So it's kind of a hybridization of those previous two. So I would say the YouTube or TikTok era is what we're in right now.
Right. So interesting. Yeah.
Do you want to jump in with that? How's your experience in that, speaking from the inside?
Well, it's funny because even with the Design Network, we go right to YouTube. So everyone watches on YouTube. And so that is how we're consuming so many things now. And they're shorter, right? It's not a 35-minute, 40-minute show. It's 11 minutes. Year in, year out. Like our attention spans are way, 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 way shorter. And so it's a very interesting medium where we used to not having commercials, so please don't give us that. We know when there's an infusion of a brand on purpose, where you have your drink and you're like, oh, this is great. We know when we're trying to be sold to. So it's a very interesting market now with the brand and how you do it and how you present yourself and the consistency of that. So I think that's really fascinating.
And there's two major shifts that have happened as far as how we consume media that this is really attributed to. One being that the internet used to be about going out and searching for things. You used to go out and scavenge. You used to find stuff. Now everything algorithmically is brought to you. So that's a big difference. And then because of the streamers, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, we're used to watching things without ads. So the way that things are advertised to us is also different, and it has to be padded around the box and not just inside of it.
Yeah, I think that from a visual perspective, it looks like it's unintentional, but it's actually very intentional. It's very styled. And so the drink and having it styled and prop styling in a certain way to capture the essence of the design that's visually appealing for that medium. You mentioned YouTube, and what comes to mind is the YouTube channel that I'm watching is Sophie Patterson from the UK, and she's kicking butt on her YouTube channel. It takes a lot of work. It's very intentional, but highly styled, highly scripted. Some of her BTS is probably not, maybe some of her shorts aren't as scripted, but it is very intentional. So having that awareness that what you're putting out there must convey to your audience. It's the same clients that you're trying to appeal to, just in a different way, in a different medium.
BTS behind the scenes. So those of you who are rolling through that in your head. Yeah.
So let's go down this hole a little bit, because what's interesting over this timeline, this Eras tour we just went on, which is super interesting, there's been a formula, right, for how the design process was presented, which we have kind of found ourselves still following. We see it in print, we see it online, and kind of written or narrative storytelling. But within shorts, right, there's a shorter format now because of shorter attention span. But it used to be 30 minutes. You broke every 12 minutes or so for a commercial. But there was a formula. You got through beginning to end. And what that might have led to were the idea that design was super linear. Who follows a very linear path in their design business? Anyone? No. Yeah, right? So can you talk a little bit about that? How maybe, not necessarily from, the theory side, but any stories, any kind of things that have evolved out of this with client work?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, it's funny. So I'm designing in Spain now, and a whole different bag, right? You can imagine the aesthetic is very different. Everything is different. Timeline, expectation, everything. But what I'm finding, though, is that because they consume our television, truly, all of our shows, I can turn on the normal TV and I'm watching dubbed HGTV. Still,
Do you see yourself? Do you come on?
no comment. It's so weird. It's such a weird, very strange experience. But the expectation then is that everything is fast, right? across the globe, everything is going to be quick. And we did a disservice, obviously, when I said 2 rooms, 2 days, $2,000. I mean, please, we had 70 people in the background, right? It's like a stream home makeover, same idea. There's hundreds of people working on that set. And we don't see enough of the drama. Like, what's wrong with having a program that starts realistically and let the 12 seasons be one house? Like, let the 12 episodes be
I've tried to pitch it.
one house. Because it's real.
It's real.
Show the drama, show that I didn't like the thing, show that all the pitfalls. Just, and I think we would consume that. I think because that's real.
People would consume it. The interest is there. The advertisers are not. And that's the difference. The content is getting better with YouTube and TikTok because now designers, like you mentioned, Sophie Patterson, creating their own stuff. And they're creating stuff in the same increment. If you were to take out those ad breaks, it'd probably have a 15-minute program. But what these designers are doing is they're not following a formula, and they're just giving real information. And that is changing. To answer the question of this panel, how is it shaping client expectations? We're turning back around where now clients have so much information. And that's new. That's a brand new thing. When it was just HGTV and TLC, just showing you the shiny parts, a lot of information was left out.
That's awesome. I wanted to transition a little bit too into managing expectations, setting them, managing them. And when the client comes, obviously, there's access to anything you have, right, in your projects. You had a really good point of view on this. And I can read your quote if you want.
I don't remember it.
You have to sell your lens. That's all you have.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so it's funny when we were talking about mentoring designers, and people ask me all the time, how do I not get shopped? Or I'm so upset that my clients are shopping me. They can find everything that I have, blah, blah, blah. And we still hear it so much. And I constantly say that your value is not in what you can purchase. Your value is your lens. They're hiring you for your perspective on the design, right? And so, because look how there's so many of us, and we would do the exact same room completely different. New show idea. Let's put 2 spaces with all the exact same things and see how different they look at the end of the show. Because it's your lens versus my lens versus everyone's lens. That's what you have, right? You are a brand. You are that thing. That's what you're selling, not the ability to find the furniture, because we're all here and we can all find it, and so can your clients. They will find it, other than the antique and vintage, and even then they can go into Cherish and First Dibs, and unless you have a line into every dealer, which is what we try to do at Renati, just saying. But we have so many dealers, and we want to see their offline stock, right? That's the gold. For us, that's the gold, the offline stuff, the stuff that's not online. But you have to just sell that lens. That's what you're selling, and they love it or they don't.
And speaking of lens, so Kelly, exactly what Kelly is doing right now, the differentiators in the styling, the prop styling, finding those unique items, things that tell a story, whether it's something your homeowner has, your client has, really have them go through the attic with them, find the treasures. I was just at I forget the brand, but this wallpaper I passed just evoked a memory from my childhood. And that, it could be as simple as that, something that you grew up with or had a fondness or a closeness to. And that's the differentiator, is just seeing things in through a unique perspective and lens is what's going to differentiate, I believe, design moving forward.
Can we talk a little bit, while we're on this topic, a little bit more? I mean, designing isn't just about, one of the perceptions is it's just make the room pretty. You guys are so great at that. Just make it look nice. But in fact, there's an enormous behind that, right? There's building construction, there's the design process, there's beyond sourcing. So have you encountered any challenges with perceptions about timelines or budgeting, the real background of design, what it takes to make those images that we all see on social media and TV? I'll use that as a big term.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably one of our biggest challenges, right? Is getting people to understand, the fabric, the window treatments, anything that's going to be soft goods that are going to be made. I can't tell you how many times you're shocked, right? They get sticker shock when they see how much it is to just buy the fabric, then make it into the beautiful curtains that you're looking for, you know, the bedding, whatever. It's things like that where you have to really, I found that I always give the variations, right? Depending on what it is. The best thing for me to set expectations is I try to put together a budget of the room, and then we can give and take with certain items, right? So if it's say it's a $100,000 room, great room, right? $100,000 room, super happy with that. And then you give them the options. Okay, we can go big on this and scale down on this, or we go big here and scale down on this. And you give the options that way so that they don't feel like they're locked into something, right? Because when you have the perception of choice, then your clients are feeling really good about what's happening. They're going on this journey with you. So we can go really high end on this, and it's gonna give us this kind of feel, or we can go high end on this, and we can work around that. And that, for me, seems to work out really well when I can put together that, but also give them that idea of choice. And then we have the budget set, and then we can play within that budget. It seems to work out better than shocking with the sticker over and over.
I just remembered that you have a background, a really strong point of view in design psychology.
Yes. Yes.
That's another panel, but like
I
what you just said
know.
about giving people choices and
I know, yes.
guiding them.
I wrote a book called Do I Look Skinny in This House? And it's really fun. It's a very light take on design psychology, but there is a lot to that, right, where they feel like they're involved. But design psychology is more not the how-tos of design, but the why of design, right? And getting to why. It started like this, and I know you've heard this, where you show a client and their partner anything, and one says, I love it, and the other one says, I hate it. And you just think, why? Like, what is going on in your heads? I just want to know why one loves, it's all visceral, right? Why one person loved it and the other person hates it. What is going on there, you know? And so it's that kind of feeling. Is that a train? Yeah, what? That's right, I forgot the tracks are back here. I was like, hold on, everybody. That visceral reaction to something is so fascinating, and why we feel the certain way that we do. So design psychology is emoting feelings when you're creating the room, so that everybody's on board. So everybody that lives in the house is feeling a certain way about the room. And you make sure you include everybody. Sometimes it has something to do with the history, right? Why do you hate this? Because it reminds me of a childhood home and it was a bad memory. Okay, we're not going there. You know, why do you love something? So the questions are really interesting because you get very personal with your clients, right? And you don't necessarily mean to, but you kind of have to, right, to understand everybody in the house. So that's another part of it, is the questions that you ask when you're getting there and trying to understand and putting together that budget, you know?
Well, let's keep going, because I'm going back to media. If there's an image a client likes or style that they have been algorithmically conditioned to see the most of.
Yeah, I think there's also, I come back to there being an issue with advertising as well, getting in the mix here and kind of skewing things. I recently wrote a piece that's out on Design News Now right now. It's about attribution and issues surrounding attribution. And the headline is snubbed by Architectural Digest. And in it, I interview Gerald Alaskar, who is insanely talented, and he runs ADG lighting and does all of these really awesome, cool, custom architectural fixtures. He's worked on every single house in Beverly Park since the 90s. Every celebrity who lives in Beverly Park, each house is $90 million. And the work he does is incredible. He has never once been mentioned in Architectural Digest. And that's a huge problem, because it's not the designer's fault either. He's been incredibly clear about that the designer will shout him out in the Architectural Digest video and the editor cuts it out. And we're trying to get to the bottom of why, because they're fine with tagging all the other vendors. Why not him? None of the tradespeople, none of the trades. And so something he proposed, because it's not industry standard right now to give everyone attribution. I think there's an argument to be made for the fact there should be, because that would mitigate some of the issues we're talking about. Why not one large mega scroll like the credits at the end of a movie? Why not?
I agree. And there was another story too, Business of Home kind of launched it. Yes. Timothy Corrigan wasn't.
That's the project that we're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what started all of this. But the same thing happened so that was for Sofia Vergara's house. That's what kicked all of this off, if you don't know. Yes. Timothy Corrigan designed the first part of that, but he didn't finish the project. And it is only customary for the designer who finishes the project to get attribution. Whether or not that's okay is up for debate. But
Isn't that like a relay, though, a relay race, right? So the person who had the baton last is not the only person on the team, right? It's kind of weird. So just because I handed you the baton last and you did the finish line.
And she was fine with it as well. Yeah. She was shouting them out as well. She said, Timothy Corrigan did the beginning of this, Gerald did this, and they cut all that out too.
I like your idea of putting that as like a kind of rolling credit, like at the end of a movie.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, we should be doing more of that.
Absolutely.
So going back then to the images or the style that the client might come to a designer with the expectation that they really like this thing, and sometimes they're really set on it, and you have to do some driving to get them around that. And sometimes they're a little bit more flexible. Do you have any insights or point of view? I mean, I'm thinking maybe from a photographer's perspective, designers know that they're creating photographic and video assets to share with potential new clients, right, to promote themselves. Definitely. So what's the conversation like with you if a designer client comes and says, here's how I want it photographed, or maybe they don't? Talk us through like what that looks like, because what you do is interesting, that you sit in between the media, Architectural Digest, Elle Decor, many, and the client, right? The client as designer.
So it's interesting. I just had an activation a few hours ago over in the Designer's Lounge doing portfolio reviews with designers and being very honest, sometimes brutally honest with them, that what are they trying to say, with their professional portfolio, being very intentional with your Instagram, with your social media. Don't put up something that doesn't help tell your brand story, or that if someone sees it doesn't make them want to hire. You only want to put out your best work visually. And so many times designers that I work with will have an idea. Oh, I like shots that are head on. Oh, I like shots that are, side. Well, only editorial shots should be head on. Oh no, editorial shots, the hero shot should be, askew. And so what I try to help them define is, what story are they trying to tell? It starts with the story. You're taking your audience on a journey. Publications are taking their readers, their audience, on a story. What is going to make someone on a Sunday rainy afternoon with a cup of tea sit with a magazine, print magazine, and go through and be inspired? So it's from that perspective that I talk to them and have them have faith in me that they're hiring a professional and they're hiring my point of view, that not unlike a designer with your clients, that you don't go to your lawyer, you don't go even to your mechanic or doctor and say, well, I think I have a better idea. No, really put trust in your designers, put trust in your photographers, that they're going to capture the essence of what it is that they're trying to attain. So I would say it's relationship building, it's trust, and it's showing up with the professional work that's going to inform them that you know what you're doing, and there's so many people behind that. So I guess that's what I would say.
So let's talk then a little bit about what's changing in how, media is looking for these assets, imagery or video. Let's stay with imagery for now, from maybe the magazine side, digital or print, right? Because they need content, essentially. They need anything we can give them. The storytelling is really important. So, what is shifting in the aesthetic, if anything? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that it depends on the publication. Each publication has a personality. And so the vibe and the aesthetic of your design work should be matched with the publication that you want to pitch to. So for instance, if it's Rue Magazine, and Kelly is over there right now doing 5-minute pitches, that readership is different from Elle Decor, which is different from House Beautiful, which is different from AD, which is different from Lux, which is different from Aspire, Veranda, Southern Living, you name it, they all have a personality. And so what, again, is the story that you are telling and matching that to the publication's personality and working with your photographer.
I have a comment about. I have questions. I'm like, okay, so tell us more. I know because so many people want to get published, right? It's a nice calling card for most of us, right? And so I just have a quick question, like, so you know your audience is what you're saying, right? And know who you are, yes. And then pitch to those particular magazines. Do you have any tips for the pitching?
So telling a captivating story, you have to have the it factor for what it is that is going to be compelling, whether it's the fact that you used a vintage item that was found in an Irish castle and it was, you know, has a story to it that was, you know, handed down through generations and is now the capstone piece in this living room. That's a story. That's a compelling story that would be interesting. Showing the authentic side of yourself and not taking yourself too seriously. Showing that visually is also interesting, like having something completely surprising in a space is also tells a compelling story. It's not the mass media look that is going to help you get published. It is going there. And what do I mean by going there? It's going beyond. It's, I don't know, showing yourself, kicking off your shoes and, you know, having your hair not perfectly coiffed. There's a cover of a magazine that is exactly that this month. And it's just letting your hair down and being real, telling that true story, not being so coiffed all the time. Same with the design. Same with the room, having things a little out of place. It's okay.
I would agree with that and doubling down on that. Having amazing photography is sort of like your barrier of entry when you're pitching these publications. It's like having a 4.0 to get into Harvard, get in line, you know, so does everyone. So that story becomes even more important. And there's a couple of things that I would always tell a designer when it comes to their photography, which is don't skimp on the stylist. That's major. And try to use the same photographer over and over again. And that becomes incredibly important when you're a designer who isn't known for just one look. If you design a lot of different styles, different price points, you're all over the place, it's really helpful to have that external point of view of that same photographer over and over again. Because then as an editor, like I can look at all of your work and I can actually sort of start to see a through line. And that's where a photographer helps you define your point of view.
That's excellent.
So, you got published. Congratulations, that's awesome. Now, what happens next? Is it going to open all the doors and the clients are going to come beat down your door? You're going to get 600 DMs per minute. Like you'll be touching your phone more than 12 seconds every 12 minutes. Does that happen? And is the expectation, since we're talking about setting expectations from the media, what about the expectation the designer has when they get published? What happens?
Yeah, no, they don't. No, people are not knocking on your door. They're not. You know what it is? Because they'll look at the image. It's you're only going to appeal to a certain percentage of people based on the last design, right? So I do a project in Las Vegas, and it's super blingy and flashy and vintagey, and if it's not your thing, you're not calling me, right? Because every time you put out something, that's your lens. You're saying to people who see your stuff, this is what I do, right? And if it's different every time, then you're not going to appeal to everybody every single time, right? Unless you just have one niche and you stick to it and that's it. That's what I do. And so a lot of us don't do that, right? We're trying to be different. We've got different projects. You want to say yes to things that are different out of your comfort zone. And so it can be difficult. You know, you're not going to have people knocking on your door. What it does help is when you are starting to branch out and you're interested in licensing. You're interested in having a line or a collection. You're interested in doing something outside of design work, but is still in the design world. That's what that is helpful for. It becomes a little bit of a little notch, you know, a little tick.
If you do get called from being published, you're probably going to get a call to design the exact same room again. Exactly. And the kind of calls you get really vary depending on what type of publication you're in. The personality of the publication is really, really important. Knowing that is important to manage your own expectations, because Architectural Digest is amazing, not to keep bringing them up, but they're amazing. It's really aspirational to be in there, but the average Architectural Digest reader is not hiring an interior designer, but they might love what you do and say, where can I purchase their stuff? Is it at Crate and Barrel? Whereas if you are a luxury interior designer wanting to be hired for your interior design services, you're much better off in a Luxe or something like that.
Regional publications.
Yeah, regional publications are great too for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the editors of Design New Jersey, Meg Fox, was just here, and we spoke a little beforehand. And that is a regional publication. If you're looking to grow your brand, may be the best place, your backyard.
Yep, absolutely.
So I like we've talked about imagery. We've talked about, I mean, that's one part of the storytelling. There's also the kind of writing and the narrative, and how would a designer go about sort of presenting that? I mean, obviously they're not expected to write along, but the words and the images go together. The image can only tell so much of the story. I have two questions for this, actually. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but I'll bring us back. So there's a trend right now for quiet luxury, right? Where the spaces are, I mean, so the colors are kind of muted, the light is really soft. You can tell, and I'm looking at this first poster as a sort of representation of that. There's so much texture. I mean, they're really telling the story of that particular product. Sometimes those ideas are hard to communicate back to a client who wants to see capital D design.
Right.
They don't get it.
Right.
So what happens next? Because we love these spaces. We love some quiet luxury sometimes.
That's your design psychology right there. Because the first question is, how do you want to feel in the room? Number one, right? And then you can sell the quiet luxury. Because if you want to feel electrified and that you walked into a hotel, then we're not necessarily talking about quiet luxury, right? Okay, we'll put a giant bar over here, check in over here. No, but you know, you feel that way because people want to feel a certain way. I want it to feel like my vacation. I want it to feel like a hotel. Some people do like that feeling. I want it to feel like XYZ. Then you can design around that and go that route. But it really is the number one question for me, right? Because again, you don't want that visceral reaction. I love it. I feel relaxed here. I want to pick up a book and chill out, and I like the quiet, muted look, or I want to feel energized. I want people to feel welcome. I want them to see my personality when they walk in the door. Very different, right? But if you're trying to just show them something and go, this is called quiet luxury, you're going to love it. And they're thinking, this is not what I had in mind, then it's an uphill battle. It's a struggle.
Are you anything to add as far as photographing or capturing, or Courtney?
Yeah. Courtney?
You go for it, and then repeat your part about copy, because I'll probably have an answer to that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think from a visual aesthetic, you want to have layers. I think layers are very important. So if you imagine this picture, and sorry, the video video people can't go to that, but it's a boucle chair, and it has a stacks and stacks of books. You've seen this picture. And there's just a beautiful muted lamp. A book is open. There's a picture. Now, so picture that in your mind. And now take away all the books. Take away the picture. Take away the lamp. What do you have? You have a boucle chair. So it truly is all about the layers. And what is, again, the visual story you're trying to tell? Stylist. Highly, highly important. So when you are wanting to have a professional portfolio, investing in a professional photographer, investing in a stylist, and if you want to tell the story and pitch it, a PR professional. That team the triangle, the triad, is what is going to help you get there, get to the finish line. Because you all went on that visual journey with me. If it's just a boucle chair, that's not really compelling. It's what are the layers that help make the visual appealing and will appeal to others.
I'm going to add this really quick. So think about, I always thought this was silly, but you still see them and they're really popular and they must work. Fragrance ads. You're watching a commercial for a fragrance, right? And you're thinking, how does this work? But it does. You're emoting the emotion. I want to feel like her in my beautiful flowy dress on the Eiffel Tower, and and you're buying that. That's what you're investing in. So it's the same thing with the interiors, right? You're buying the feeling and you're buying the emotion. So you have to find the team to help you emote that feeling.
Back to that copy part. So we build a lot of websites, and which is your own media, right? It's your own media channel, basically. Your website, your social media. These are your assets that you create, you craft, you curate. It's not just about the images. I get a lot of designers who, show me sites that they want to benchmark, and they, it's just one continuous image, which is fantastic. But I know from a, consumer side and from a psychology side, not everybody takes in visual information in the same way. Some people are readers. Some people need to hear things. People are taking in different parts of your brand message in many different ways. And that copy piece is super essential because it fills in the storytelling blanks, which are often left very, very broadly stroked. If a potential client sees a space and you've done the entire thing, it's like a full kitchen remodel down to the studs. They don't know that unless you tell them. You have to describe that, when you want to have a full spread, a full feature in a media piece. But you get to do that on your own with your own work. Don't forget that. So the copy thing comes back to, designers say to me all the time, I'm not a writer. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't need to be a writer, but you've got to flesh out the storytelling, complement the visual with some words. And if you can, afford to hire someone to help you with that, great. Please don't use ChatGPT. We can smell it. Yeah. Don't do it.
It's a dead giveaway where the last paragraph says, so in conclusion. Yeah. Dead giveaway.
In the world of, in the evolving landscape of.
Unleash your whatever.
Yeah. All designers are visual communicators. That much is clear. Something that's really helpful is when it's usually the publicist that will be really helpful in this regard, but if you're a designer who's working with one, you can talk to them about, okay, what's my secondary communication style? Because that way a publicist can come to me and say, here's a bunch of really pretty portfolio images, cool, checks that box, and they're really awesome on camera. They love to talk. Or, they're a little more academic. Maybe like a written format for this feature is better. But that's really the kind of thing that helps me. And it doesn't have to be a long pitch. Bullet points are fine, but the things that are really, really grabby and interesting, all the little niche things that I wouldn't know from looking at the image, that's what you have to tell me. It doesn't really matter that the style is quiet luxury. I'm looking at it, I see that. But what else is going on there? They have this relationship with the clients, or they're art collectors, or whatever it is. That's the other stuff I want to know. I
love that. And I've taken the word unique out of my
Thank you.
Lexicon. And now I say original.
It's all in the details.
No. Like, it's really, but what I prefer to people to think about is not uniqueness, but originality. What makes you or your firm or your work or this project or that chair or whatever photograph, like, just what makes it original? How original is it? Not unique. We have to wrap up, but thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Kelly, Courtney, Tori, you guys are the best. This was such a great conversation. Yeah. Go visit Universal. There, again, beautiful showroom. Super, super great to work with. Friendly for designers if you haven't done that yet. So, and happy market.
Yay, thank
Bye.
you. Thanks, everyone.